Welcome to the stream. Let me know if you have any questions ahead of the game week 22 deadline. I'll get Captain Vote up really soon. Let me know if the sound is okay or if the music is too loud or if my voice is too low. Let me know if you have any questions ahead of the next deadline, and please let me know if the music is too loud or my voice is too low. FPL FOMO, thanks for joining in. Unless there's a late update going Palmer captain this week despite his yellow flag. You know, I was actually on Palmer all day, just changed it a couple of hours ago, to be honest. I might change back to Palmer, but feels a bit risky captaining Cole Palmer. I'm not sure we'll get any updates before the deadline, but Maresca said that it was the kick he got in the first half in game week 21, and don't necessarily see that as a serious injury. He continued and he came on for the second half and finished the game, so I kind of agree. I think that Cole Palmer is fine. Maybe he's a bit sore, but he did not train. That's what we know as of now. He did not participate in Chelsea's last training session, but probably think that Cole Palmer will play, and I'm not ruling him out as my captain option in game week 22. probably has the best fixture playing against Wolves at the moment. They're not really convincing when it comes to their defending ability. I know that Salah probably will be the most captain player once again, but playing against Brentford away is not the best fixture for Salah and Liverpool. Now watch the last Liverpool games, and Salah, he did well in the second half in game week 21, but he's not looking that threatening, to be honest. I think that Alexander Isak, he was a bit lucky, of course, with his first goal, but he looks more confident at the moment, so it's tempting to go with Isak. My second option is Cole Palmer. Salah will probably go against him once again. So let me know who will be your captain in game week 22. Vote in the captain's poll. Salah, Palmer, they are on 40% at the moment. Alexander Isak takes second with 20%. So if you just joined in, thanks for watching. Let me know if you have any questions ahead of game week 22 and go vote in the captain poll as well. Game of can Mbeumo Wissa create anything against Liverpool? The thing is, when it comes to Mbeumo and Wissa, they were massively sold in game week, was it like 15 or 16 ahead of their tough fixtures, but they have actually ticked along nicely. So I think that both of them, they are like probably what FPL managers want. They are nailed on and playing for an attacking team, especially Mbeumo with his penalties as well. So can Mbeumo Wissa create anything against Liverpool? We saw that Chris Wood, he got 9 points against Liverpool. He scored maximum bonus. So I definitely think that Mbeumo and Wissa can do something. I'm not ruling it out, but my advice would be to, if you want to transfer them in, I would probably wait a game week, but if you have them, I would definitely play both Wissa and Mbeumo in game week 22. I read some rumors today about Trent Arnold being close to joining Real Madrid. Actually, this month. I'm not sure if it's true. Posted in over at X. Let me know if you have any news about Trent Arnold. He's actually one of my potential transfer targets next game week, so I really need to figure out the latest on Trent Arnold going forward. So my transfer this game week, the potential transfer is to sell Kai Havertz. Really frustrating asset. I know that he's playing for a really good team. He's close to being nailed on and playing up front for Arsenal at the moment, but his confidence is so low. I'm not sure if you watched in the FA Cup against Man United, but he had so many chances, missed them all, and he continued in game week 21. It's like he's getting into good positions. His expected goals is like 2.50 something, but he's not looking really good at the moment. So I'm really tempted to sell Kai Havertz, to be honest, and bring in Gakpo. I think that the best thing to do is to wait until game week 23 when Liverpool have a really, really good game against Ipswich at home, then followed up by their double game week in 24. So that's my plan currently, to save a transfer. I have two free transfers ahead of game week 22, but I will probably save another transfer and have three of them going into game week 23. Bring in double Liverpool. The ones I will have to sell is Kirkis and Kai Havertz to bring in Gakpo and Trent Arnold. So I'm really, really interested to hear if anyone has any news on Trent and his potential move to Madrid. So the original question was, can Mbumo and Wissa create anything against Liverpool? My answer is, my guess is that yes, they can. So I would not necessarily bring them in for game week 22, but I would definitely play them if I have them in my team. Of course, when it comes to Wissa, it depends on who you would bench instead of Wissa, but I would probably play both of them. Jackson, he is one of the most transferred out players ahead of the next game week. I watched the Chelsea game in game week 21, and it must have been so frustrating for the Jackson owners to watch that game. So he could actually have had a haul in game week 21. If I had Jackson at the moment, and yeah, I would definitely keep Jackson. He's getting into good positions, getting so many chances, but kind of like Kai Havertz, as I mentioned 5 minutes ago, they have been so wasteful and they lack confidence at the moment. I know that Kai Havertz, he did pretty well before he got sick. He missed 2 game weeks. I think it was game week 19 and 20. Back for game week 21, but he blanked. When it comes to Jackson, I know that he has not scored for a month, but he definitely should have scored in game week 21. So not necessarily someone in need to sell at the moment. I would give him the game against Wolves in game week 22 if I had Jackson in my team. Luis Diaz is the second most transferred out players. 230k thousand managers have sold Luis Diaz ahead of game week 22. I'm not sure if that's because they want to like restructure their team to bring in another Liverpool asset. Can't really see the three best Liverpool assets is not that obvious. Of course, you have Mo Salah. He should be in for their double game week in game week 24. I will try to get Trent in my team, but the third Liverpool spot is kind of open at the moment. The one that's closest for me is Gakpo. So Kai Havertz to Gakpo is a transfer I'm actually considering, but I think I will probably wait until game week 23 and the game against Ipswich. I'm keeping Mbeumo, but need to bench Wissa or Rodgers. Okay, so you have both of them in your team. I think that I would probably play. It's a hard decision again. Both of them have a really tough fixture. I would probably just back the home fixture in game week 22. So I'll actually play Wissa. When it comes to Brentford, they actually are, I think it's the third or fourth best teams when it comes to expected goals at home this season. So the fact that Brentford is at home against Liverpool probably sways it, and I would play Wissa ahead of Rodgers in game week 22. I like Rodgers as well. I regret going with Buonanotte on my game week 12 wildcard. I saved some money on going Buonanotte. Saved myself from having a benching headache because it's so easy to bench Buonanotte, of course. But in game week 22, I would start Wissa ahead of Rodgers. Thanks for the solid advice. Hopefully, it's helpful. Of course, it's your decision ultimately, but that's just my thoughts, and hopefully, it will help you make a decision. And hopefully, the decision you make is the best one. So, I think that having Rogers is like mixed feelings because I owned him as well from game week 5 to 12, and I had him in a rotation with Emil Smith Rowe, Semenyo, and Rogers. So my plan was like play the one with the best fixture, and I did, but unfortunately, most of the game weeks I got it wrong. So kind of based on bad luck as well, especially some of the game weeks where I started Semenyo. It went really wrong, even though he had so many chances and actually played really well. I think he hit the post like 5 times in 2 games and something like that. Bro, Matthias Brusaco, Jovan Miskovic, thanks for joining in, both of you. Really nice to see you. Bro, Munoz or Hall. When it comes to Munoz or Hall, I really like them. 2 of the most attacking defenders recently. Both of them could do really well in game week 22. I think that if you're satisfied with your rank and if you are satisfied with your mini leagues as well, I would definitely play Lewis Hall because his ownership has risen, so he is well owned at the moment and actually a kind of a threat to the rank. So Lewis Hall, I would play him as a shield, but if you want to take more of a punt and a risk, then Munoz definitely is a really good option. So Hall to defend your rank and your positions in your mini league, but play Munoz if you want to play a bit more attacking. I think that the game for Crystal Palace against West Ham, I'm not sure that Crystal Palace will get a clean sheet, but I definitely think that Munoz, he could deliver attacking returns. So if I had Munoz and Hall in my team, I would probably try to find a way to play them both, but if I had to choose between them, I would, at the moment, considering my rank, I would probably go Munoz, but there's always a risk involved if you want to bench Lewis Hall at the moment, in my opinion. But yes, I want to transfer in Forest Defender. Definitely a really good option to transfer in a Nottingham Forest defender. I just checked the stats earlier today, and I think that inside the top 6 for the most point scoring defenders, Nottingham Forest have 3 players. So, of course, they are still cheap, still actually kind of low owned considering how well they have done. So, transferring in a Nottingham Forest player is definitely a really good option. So, are you like asking which player or who to sell or who to bring in? Steve G, would you play Sar now that he's doubtful, or start Saliba or Rodgers? Already have Gabriel. So if I had Sar in my team, Saliba as well, but already had Gabriel, I would probably, I just said earlier 10 minutes ago that I would bench Rodgers for Wissa, but in this case I would start Rodgers. I know that the fixture is not the best playing away against Arsenal, but Rodgers is a really, really good player, and as we've seen this season, Arsenal, they have the best defensive stats, but they rarely keep clean sheets. And if Aston Villa gets a goal, then Rodgers probably is involved in some way, either with assists or scoring himself. Murillo or Nico Williams to transfer in. Jovan, he's saying Nico Williams. Both of them are really good options. I think that when it comes to picking the right Nottingham Forest defender, it's not the easiest thing to do at the moment. I'll just go and have a quick check when it comes to the points for the Nottingham Forest players. So of course, Aina, he is Nottingham Forest top scoring defender, 97 points. He'll probably reach 100 points in game week 22. Milenkovic, he has been my favorite Nottingham Forest players for weeks. I had him on my watch list since game week 16, something like that, but never really had an opportunity to bring him in because I had to use transfers on like selling Saka, Jared Bowen, and fixing injuries and stuff like that. So I never had the opportunity to bring in Milenkovic. Murillo, he is actually only 4.6 still, so of course really good value. He's nailed on when it comes to Nico Williams. Probably a bit more of a minutes risk, but more attacking as well. I know that Murillo is a big threat at set pieces, but I think that Milenkovic is their main target when it comes to free kicks around the area and corners and stuff like that. So Milenkovic is probably the one to target if you have the extra 0.2. But if you want to go really cheap, I would just go down to Nico Williams, to be honest, and hope for some assists. So Milenkovic or Nico Williams would be my preferred Nottingham Forest defenders. Play one, Semenyo, Mbumo, or Raul Jimenez. Tough decision as well. It kind of depends on your team. If you're playing Lewis Hall, I would definitely bench Semenyo. I think that Raul Jimenez, after seeing that he took 2 penalties in game week, was it game week 19, 18, 19, with Andreas Pereira on the pitch, I think that I really like Jimenez at the moment, especially in game week 22. Really good fixture against Leicester, so I would definitely play Jimenez ahead of Semenyo. Bumo, it's really a risk involved in benching Mbumo. So it's a tough decision when it comes to Mbumo and Raul Jimenez. I would say that Semenyo is like, if I had all of them, I had to play just one, then Semenyo would be easily benched for me, but it's closer between Mbumo and Raul Jimenez. I would probably play the fixture and play Raul for game week 22. The thing when it comes to Mbumo, he has the biggest ownership. So, like I answered 5 minutes ago when we had a question, what was that? It was I got a question about playing Munoz or Lewis Hall. It kind of depends on your situation and your rank and your position in your mini leagues. I would definitely play Mbumo to, if I were satisfied with my rank and my position in my mini leagues, I would definitely play Mbumo because he is a really big rank killer if he does well. When it comes to Raul, he's more of a differential. I know that he is well owned as well, but if Mbumo holds, you'll need your other players to do well to get a green arrow. So really close between Mbumo or Raul. In my team, I would play Raul, but if you're on top in your mini leagues, I would probably play safe and play Mbumo. Please bench one of Mbumo, Joe Pedro, or Ahmad. Oh, is it possible to bench Ahmad after that last 10 minutes in game week 21? The thing is that both Mbumo and Joao Pedro, they are on penalties, so there's always a risk involved in benching them. We know this, right? And we saw a good example of this when Brighton played against Arsenal. Joao Pedro, he got a penalty, took it himself, and scored, of course. So really tough decision. Again, I think that I will probably bench Mbumo playing against Liverpool. Yeah, I would bench Mbumo, especially if you have a Liverpool defender. If you have Konate or Trent, someone like that, it would make the decision a lot easier, of course. But I can see some goals in the Man United against Brighton game as well. They actually, usually those games, they have a lot of goals. At the moment, I have Masraoui in my team playing against Joao Pedro. This will be changed. I have the option to sell Joao Pedro to bring in Gakpo, or I can play my Fulham defender Anderson instead. So this will probably be my lineup if I don't make a transfer. I'm usually not a fan of playing my attacking players against my defenders, so it makes sense to bench Masraoui. I think I'll play Semenyo over Mbumo since I got double Liverpool defense. Yeah, definitely. It's like you have to maximize the points, right? So you have to take the risk if you own a double Liverpool. If you have a double Liverpool defense, I would probably not play the attacker against them. So even though Mbumo probably is a better FPL option, we just have to try to get the best out of our teams. So benching Mbumo against a double Liverpool defense totally makes sense. So that would be my decision as well. It's not like Semenyo is a bad asset, even though Mbumo probably slightly better. So hopefully the decision will be a good one. Matthias, are you decided on who to captain? I'm not really 100% sure who will get the captain's armband. Actually, I just changed from Cole Palmer to Alexander Isak due to the injury news. I'm not really a fan of. I'm not really believing in the Gandhi stuff, and that we never should captain a player in the early fixtures. But however, I don't really like it because if your captain blanks in the first fixture, is really, really frustrating, and you just know that it will be a really long and tough game week. So I'm not really superstitious, but even though I'm not superstitious, I'm not a fan of captaining a player in the first fixture. But Alexander Isak, he has looked so good recently, so I'm kind of tempted to captain him, but so to be honest, I changed to Isak, but I'm 60% sure that I probably will switch back to Cole Palmer, so it's 60-40 for me. Cole Palmer will probably be my captain, so I can go back and just switch it back. I really think that Cole Palmer will play. I watched the Chelsea game and I saw the knock he took in the first half. Of course, it hurts, but he continued on. He came on for the second half and continued playing. So I think that he's, of course, he hurts as mentioned, but he probably not miss a game due to that knock. So I think that Cole Palmer will be fine and he will play. I'm not sure if you watched my team selection video for game week 22, but I actually talked about Cole Palmer and Chelsea. It's been kind of frustrating owning, maybe not owning, but captaining Cole Palmer recently. I took the punt in game week 19 as well when Chelsea were playing against Ipswich and Liverpool, they were playing against West Ham. So I thought that Chelsea and Cole Palmer probably had a slightly better fixture than Liverpool, so I gave the captain's armband to Cole Palmer, but he blanked Liverpool. Liverpool won 5-0. Salah with 2 goals and 1 assist. 16 points for Salah, 2 points for Cole Palmer, and that was really a rank killer for me. Yeah, Chelsea, they lost 2-0 against Ipswich. Really, really frustrating match to watch, especially as a Cole Palmer captain. Chelsea did really well in the first half against Ipswich, but not really impressive. What's your reasoning for Alexander Isak as captain? The thing is that when it comes to Isak, is that we know that he is nailed on and on penalties. When it comes to Cole Palmer, usually it's the same. So for me, the last 5 game weeks or so, it has been the captain decision has been between Alexander Isak, Cole Palmer, or Mo Salah. Really, really good fantasy options. They are nailed on and on penalties. That's like what you want from your captain in FPL. But the decision has solely been made out of their fixture for me. And in game week 22, I think that after taking a look at the defensive stats, Newcastle, they actually have the better fixture playing against Wolves. I'm sorry, Chelsea, they actually have the better fixture playing against Wolves. But when it comes to Cole Palmer and his fitness, it's a bit of a worry. And I think that he's played so many minutes recently. So I'm not sure if you heard, but my captaincy has been on Cole Palmer since Tuesday, when game week 21 started and we could all see our game week 22 teams. So my bus team captain has been Cole Palmer. I switched it to Alexander Isak due to the injury news, but I just switched it back to Cole Palmer. I think that he has the best fixture as mentioned. We know that he is on penalties and on most set pieces for Chelsea, so especially if Enzo is out as well, there is a slight risk over Enzo's form. So I think that the captaincy actually is a bit tough for game week 22. I like those game weeks. The thing is that in game weeks like this, there are usually huge swings when it comes to points. So even though you're inside the top 10k, you could have like a 80 points game week, and your closest rival can see like 35 points, and that will of course be a huge swing, all down to captaincy. So it's not like Mo Salah has a really bad fixture, but it's just that Brentford at home they have done really well at home, and of course, when it comes to the attacking stats, Mo Salah has had a bit of a dip recently as well. Naturally, because his stats was so good, better than we have seen in years. So natural for Salah to lay off a bit, but I think that Mo Salah is a decent option as well. So if I were to rank the best captain options in game week 22, Cole Palmer is probably still the best option. For me, Alexander Isak is second, Mo Salah third, and if I had Chris Wood, I would consider giving him the armband. But when it comes to Chris Wood, I think that of course he is a quality finisher, but I think that owners maybe have been a bit lucky. So I read a stat that he actually have had 3 shots on target in his last 3 games, and he has 3 goals. So that's of course a bit fortunate, but FPL Cortex. Evening people, thanks for joining in, Cortex. Ready for game week 22. We just been discussing the captaincy. So far today, I started the day with Palmer as captain. Had it on Alexander Isak for 15 minutes, but I just changed it back to Cole Palmer. The reason that I changed it from Cole Palmer is the injury Boris, but I think that Cole Palmer will play in game week 22. When it comes to Chelsea, they have their game on Monday as well, so he has a bit of extra time to recover from his injury. So he will probably play, and he has the better fixture. So Cole Palmer is tempting once again. He was my captain in game week 21 as well. 10 points, decent result. Looked really promising because he scored early on in game week 21, so I was really hoping for a big Cole Palmer haul, but Isaac, he outscored Cole Palmer, so it wasn't that big of an advantage taking the Cole Palmer punts. Of course, it really helped that Mo Salah blanked, but still ended up on a red arrow actually in game week 21. 65 points for me. Really frustrating yesterday. I had two players left, Masraoui and Joe Pedro. I was so satisfied when Joe Pedro started, but yeah, he picked up a yellow, so 1 point for him and no returns from Masraoui. Yeah, I heard you. I'm captaining Salah this game week. Bruno didn't go well last game week, unfortunately. I think that probably, if I had Bruno Fernandes in game week 21, I would probably have kept him as well. So it was kind of silver lining for me that I did not bring in Bruno. And of course, Salah, he is always a good option when it comes to captaincy. We saw that in game week 20 against Man United as well. He didn't really play well in that fixture. I think that Man United actually did really well against Liverpool in the drew the 2-2, wasn't it? And I think that Mo Salah was a bit lucky getting that penalty. So even though Salah has a bad game, he can still deliver points. So always, of course, a really good option. I wish. Oh, I think there are a lot of managers in a similar position. I wish Joe Pedro hadn't started because I will be 15 points on the bench. Yeah, I've seen a lot of posts over at X with the exact same players on the bench. I will be 15 points. He was benched by a lot in game week 21. The same goes for Chris Wood and his tough fixture against Liverpool. A lot of managers having both yellow flag Joe Pedro and Alexander Isak playing on Wednesday, and they were like begging for him or them not to start, but nothing we can do about that. I think that I will be probably is a decent option going forward as well. Would start, I will be in game week 22 if I had him. I think that the game against Leicester is decent. Of course, it depends on who you'll bench, of course, but brought in Wood for Watkins this game week. Finally, I have that Wood. He has been my nemesis this season. He's close to Holland for me. The most frustrating for me this season has been the swap between Holland and Salah, because I got this totally wrong and my rank really took a big hit in the first 10 game weeks. So I started the season. I mentioned this a couple of times before, so I'll just take it quick. I started the season with Mo Salah and no Holland, and in game week 6, but yeah, of course, Haaland really smashed it in the first game week. So I made a switch. I sold Mo Salah and brought in Haaland from game week 6. But Haaland, he suddenly stopped scoring while Mo Salah really started to find some form after that. So that was really frustrating. And when it comes to Chris Wood as well, I've been close actually to bring him in myself, but yeah, when it comes to Nottingham Forest assets, I'm not really sure why, but every time I'm considering to bring one of them in, I've gotten an injury or suspension, something like that, that has made me do some other transfer. I was really close to bringing in Milenkovic, close to bringing in Chris Wood as well, but I've not owned a Nottingham Forest asset all season, and when we consider their value, that's of course not good. Reckon Palmer starts, him and Sarah yellow flagged in my team. Yeah, both of them have a yellow flag at the moment. I read Mariska's comments about Cole Palmer's injury, and it was that kick he received in the first half in game week 21. He continued playing and he finished the game. He did not look that fresh in the second half, but I'm not sure that his small dip in form in second half had anything to do with his small injury, to be honest. I think that Bournemouth, they played better in the second half. So, and when it comes to Cole Palmer, I think that he is a bit of a mood player. So I think that if Cole Palmer does a couple of good turns, a couple of good passes, a couple of decent shots, then he will just continue delivering. But if he gets a kick, if he gets a bit annoyed, then Cole Palmer's form and results will drop a bit as well. So there are a lot of players like this that you can just see on their body language if they want to be on the pitch or not. And I think in the second half that Cole Palmer was a bit frustrated, missed a couple of passes, got a bit of some tough tackles as well. And I think that, yeah, as you say, with 6 days rest, I reckon it's fine. I totally agree. And yeah, after reading, when I see that he was yellow flagged, I switched the captaincy to Alexander Isak, as mentioned. But after reading the comments, I think that Cole Palmer will start, and I think that when it comes to fixture, he is probably the best captain option for this game week. And this, of course, this has nothing to do when it comes to their points, but I like personally to have my captain playing later in the game week. I just said I'm not superstitious or anything, not believing in that Gandhi quote that we should never back the early fixture, but I really like the idea of having my captain playing Monday Night Football, like game weeks that has a fixture on Monday. It's really, really close in the captain poll, to be honest. 50-50. New votes for Salah. As I say, this is Salah. He is on 50%. Palmer, he is second with 36, and I second with they have 7%. So Salah, he is leading in the captain poll. He will probably be the most captain player in game week 22 as well. He's the most owned player. In game week 21, he had, was it 160 effective ownership. So it's like when it comes to captaincy, there can be really big swings this game week as well. I think that probably the Salah captainers, they were actually a bit lucky in game week 21. I think that Cole Palmer, he should maybe have had an assist or maybe 2 assists in addition to his goal. So he could have had more than his 10 points. But as mentioned, Salah, he will be the most captain player. He is the most selected player and voted for in the captain poll. I think that his effective ownership probably will be around 150 again in game week 22 fixture against Brentford. I think that most FPL players, they are not really aware that Brentford are that good at home. There was a lot of talk about Nottingham Forest and their good form in game week 21 or ahead of game week 21, definitely because Nottingham Forest actually they had kept 4 consecutive clean sheets ahead of their clash against Liverpool. So we knew, and most active FPL managers knew, that Nottingham Forest, they are a really good side. But when it comes to Brentford, I think it's a bit more secret that they have done so well at home. So there will probably be a bit more Salah captainers for game week 22. But of course, Salah, he blanked, so there might be someone wanting to take the armband off him. So yeah, I'm not sure when I consider that he actually blanked in game week 21. I'm not that sure that he will reach 150 effective ownership, but he will probably be the most captain player in game week 22. When it comes to transfers, I'm really tempted to bring in Gakpo. He's not actually my kind of FPL player. I like the players that are nailed on and have more routes to goal. I know that Gakpo, he is not on any set pieces whatsoever for Liverpool, and he might get benched. But when it comes to Liverpool and their fixtures, especially from game week 23, it's so tempting to double up on their attack. When it comes to Arsenal, they have decent fixtures as well. That's kind of what makes me think a lot about this transfer. Havertz nailed on, playing up front for Arsenal as their number 9. It's kind of a hard decision, but if I don't sell Havertz to bring in Gakpo, I will probably do it ahead of game week 23. Liverpool, they are playing at home against Ipswich before they have a double game week against Bournemouth and Leicester in game week 24, double game week 24. So Gakpo is on my watch list, and if I bring in Gakpo, if I sell Kai Havertz to bring in Gakpo, I have the exact funds. I have actually 0.2 in the bank after selling Kirkis to bring in Trent as well. So I read some rumors about Trent going to Madrid in January. Posted it on X and someone said that it's not true. Hopefully they are right. So I have no inside information about this transfer whatsoever, but I just posted it to get some clarification, and I would really want Trent if he stays at Liverpool. There is a risk involved, of course. Bringing in Trent, so expensive, 7.2 million for a defender, but in the last 2 game weeks, Trent has had the best expected goal involvement. Munoz, he has been the XG king for the last 6 game weeks, but Trent has been best for the last couple of game weeks. I like both of them. I've actually got a couple of questions about Munoz already in this stream. I think that he is a really interesting option at the moment. Kept a clean sheet last game week, even though he did not deliver any attacking returns, but soon enough he will get a clean sheet and a goal or assist, and that will be 15 points for your team. Haven't seen anyone else playing Anderson in defense. He's probably low cost. Yeah, he's 4.2, so I think that he is decent value to Fulham. At the moment when I brought him in, he had good fixtures. I know that Fulham still have some good fixtures coming up. It's more of a mixed schedule for Fulham going forward, but at 4.2, I think that Anderson is safe to put on the bench and have in like a defensive rotation. He is an attacking threat at set pieces as well. I think that Robinson, he got 2 assists in game week 21, really lucky. So Robinson is still the best option when it comes to Fulham defense. When we got the new news about Kenny Tete, he was at first he was supposed to be out for 8 weeks, but we know that he will not play until March at the earliest. So in retrospect, I think that Robinson is the best option. Castan is probably still second, but Anderson is a decent option as well. So long term, I prefer Anderson over Castani, but if I were to transfer in a Fulham defender for the short term, or if you have planned your wild card in around game week 29, something like that, I would probably go Castani over Anderson. When it comes to Anderson, it's really frustrating because he scored in. I'm not really sure if it was in the EFL or in the FA Cup, but they won 4-1, something like that. And Anderson, he got his first attacking return after returning from injury. So kind of frustrating that it did not happen in the Premier League, of course, but hopefully soon enough he can deliver in the Premier League and deliver some FPL points as well. So we remember from last season when he was playing for Crystal Palace, he was one of their best defensive assets. I think that he started at 4.5. At some point he was actually at around 5.2, 5.3, something like that, at an ownership of 25%. So I think that when he gets some more games, that Anderson will prove to be a really good asset going forward this season as well. Good night, good luck tomorrow. Thanks for joining in, FPL Cortex. Best of luck tomorrow. Hopefully we can get some green arrows in game week 22. Let's have a quick look at the league. I think that I did not do well when it comes to my mini leagues in game week 21. Unfortunately, 65 points, not enough. It's not that bad. A small red arrow for me in game week 21. As mentioned, 61 points, so not the end of the world. Please go and join the mini league if you're interested. It's actually starting this game week. Created a mini league that will start in game week 22 and run all the way until the end of the season. So the link is in the description, or the code is PS0VT0 if you're interested in joining. Most transferred in player this game week is Chris Wood. Not really surprising that he has done well recently, and of course, when we consider the fixture for Nottingham Forest in game week 22, it makes sense to bring in Chris Wood. Thing is that the fixtures after the Southampton game is not that good. An easy transfer for me would, of course, be to just sell Kai Havertz. Really frustrating assets, the lack of confidence for Kai Havertz, but when we consider ownership, Chris Wood, he is above 30% owned. Let's just check real quick. He's probably more. Chris Wood, let's see. He is owned by. He's getting close to 40% owned at the moment, 38.5. So, of course, there is a risk going into game week 22 without Chris Wood, but I'm willing to take the risk, and hopefully Kai Havertz can do something, and hopefully the 3 free transfers can do me good to attack the double game week in game week 24. FPL FOMO, 84 points got me a 50% green arrow. I'm expecting a 50% red arrow this game. That's how it's gone for me since game week 10. Really, really good game week, 84 points. FPL FOMO, that's... Yeah, let's just say that our head-to-head game did not get that exciting. I got 65, you get 84, so 3 points for you, 19 points above me. It's kind of embarrassing, to be honest. Let's take a look at the head-to-head league. There are actually a lot of decent scores. So Ralph Sutton, he got 82. Can you believe it? George Jones, 93 points, and Darwin is never quit. FPL FOMO got 84 points, so that's some big green arrows in game week 22. Hopefully for you it will continue, but in the next game week, let's check real quick. I will play against Toby Maguire. In game week 21, he got 70 points, so he would have beat me in game week 21 as well. So the standings, Ralph Sutton, he has 6 points at the moment on top. 4 players, they have 3 points each, while Toby Maguire FC have 0 points at the moment. But FPL FOMO, congratulations with a really good game week. 84 points is really solid, and 50% green arrow. That's like one of the best feelings in FPL when you have game weeks like this. So it's been a while for me, to be honest. I've struggled this season. 1.5 million ranked at the moment, so I need a bit of luck going forward to first of all break the 1 million and of course try to get close to 100k. The 100k, that's my worst rank. And that tells a lot when it comes to my expectations in FPL and where I'm ranked at the moment. And a really frustrating thing is that I actually have really good ranks earlier, but after starting doing those live streams, I have my worst rank ever so far in the season. So that's kind of a paradox that when you try to to help others and interact more and try to get engagement on your new FPL channel, then your rank is on an all-time low. So of course that's frustrating, but it is what it is. Of course, always trying to better it, but some bad decisions this season, some bad luck. So it's a combination, but hopefully it can turn around really soon. So when it comes to injuries, Jesus is still out, Jared Bowen as well. Kenny Tete, he is out for longer than we expected. He will not play until March. Kyle Walker will miss game week 22 most probably. Pep did not actually say that he was out, but he like hinted to the fact that Kyle Walker would not be involved. Kind of frustrating for the Rico Lewis owners when Kyle Walker missed out. Rico Lewis was still benched, so I don't really see Rico Lewis as a good buy at the moment. Fabianski is back, Kepa is back as well, 2 goalkeepers, and Ben Davies is back for Spurs. I'm not saying that Ben Davies is a world-class defender, but when it comes to Spurs and their defenders for the recent weeks, I think that having a player like him with his experience, that I think that will probably help Spurs a bit. So having Davis back at the moment for Spurs is probably really great news. Duran is back as well. He will probably get minutes in game week 22, so not good for Watkins owners. They will probably start to see a bit more rotation between Watkins and Duran, as we saw before his ban, of course. And Darwin is back from suspension, and Dalot as well for Man United. So some players coming back, some players being out. Evan Nilsson Unal still out for Bournemouth. Gomez as well for Liverpool. So I think that Konate probably is a good buy at the moment, especially for next game week when Liverpool have a good fixture against Ipswich, and of course a double game week against Bournemouth and Everton in double game week 24. So the fact that Gomez is out makes Kwanzaa a really interesting asset. I just said in my game week 22 team selection video that when it comes to Liverpool defenders, my first priority would be Trent because of the attacking threat, but I would probably go for Konate and the value above Van Dijk, because Van Dijk is 6.4 at the moment, Konate is 5.1, so it's 1.3 price difference between them. So if I were to rank the Liverpool defenders at the moment, it would be Trent first, then Konate, and Van Dijk third. Enzo Fernandez and Cole Palmer are doubts ahead of Chelsea's fixture on Monday night against Wolves. I think that probably, especially Cole Palmer, will play. Maresca said that he did not train because of the knock he took in game week 21, but he continued playing. He finished the game, so I think that Cole Palmer probably will be fine. At the moment, Cole Palmer is my captain as well. He has been for the last couple of days. I had a quick change to Alexander Isak. It lasted for 20 minutes, but I changed it back to Cole Palmer. So if you don't get any news that he is definitely out, or if you get any news that he is a big doubt for game week 22, I'll probably change back to Alexander Isak, but if not, it will probably stay on Cole Palmer. When it comes to transfers, I have considered selling Kai Havertz to bring in Gakpo. This will be in preparation for double game week 24. Liverpool, they also have, as mentioned, a really good fixture against Ipswich in game week 23. So I think that bringing in Liverpool players at the moment is a really, really good idea. Jimbo the Daddy, thanks for joining in. Thoughts on Joe Felix punt for the Wolves game? I'm not really a fan on taking punts in the Chelsea attack, to be honest. We're not really sure who will play. Cole Palmer, of course, he will play and start most games. Same goes for Jackson, but we've seen actually that Jackson, he has been rested a couple of times as well. But when it comes to Joe Felix, even though he did well in game week 21, looked fresh when he came on, but I would probably that's like a transfer that I would probably do if I had a plan to wildcard in the next couple of game weeks. I could take a Joao Felix punt on a free hit, something like that, but I can easily see Joao Felix being benched and come on for a one-pointer as well. So yeah, I haven't really considered it, but it's like when it comes to the when it comes to the players up front for both Chelsea and Liverpool, they have so many good options at the moment. So I think that there is a big risk involved in taking a punt on a player like Joao Felix. Can be really, really frustrating to check the team news ahead of their game on Monday night to see Joao Felix benched. Of course, I can see the temptation after his performance in game week 21, but would only do that move in some occasions. As mentioned, a free hit if you are to use your wildcard really soon, or if you have 5 free transfers and have someone like Jesus up top that's injured, then it's probably worth taking a punt. But if you only have a couple of free transfers, then I don't really think it's worth it, to be honest. Also, thoughts on Utara from Bournemouth. Was he playing up front last game? He's 5 and he has very good stats. I think that he is a good option at the moment, but it's like he is on borrowed time and it's not that good. So he is a transfer waiting to happen if you want to take a punt. So it kind of depends on how much do you need a punt. So there are other good viable punts that you can take as well. That's more long term, like a Morgan Gibbs White at Forest is probably safer when it comes to risk aversion. But let's take a look at Utara's ownership. It can't be that high. Let's be like 0.2. Django Utara 0.25 million. So I just got him up on the screen. I can like maybe, yeah. So Otara, he is probably a decent punt considering that he will play some minutes going forward as Bournemouth's number 9. But considering the fixtures, they are up against a really solid and informed Newcastle in game week 22, and they have a game against a really solid and informed Nottingham Forest the next game week in game week 23, and game week 24 they play against Liverpool. So when it comes to bringing in Bournemouth assets, I would not necessarily do that at the moment, but it's a good spot that Utara is playing up front for Bournemouth. But yeah, as you mentioned, stats are decent as well, but I'm not sure that I would do that transfer ahead of game week 22. Do you think Bournemouth will score in those games? I will play Lewis Hall, and I'm really hopeful of a Newcastle clean sheet, to be honest, in game week 22. But of course, we've seen in some games that even though the teams have really, really good defensive stats, especially considering Arsenal, they actually have the best defensive stats all season, but they rarely keep clean sheets. It has been like this for Man City for not only this season but last season as well. So they have really good defensive stats, only allowing the opposition to have like 2-3 shots at target, but like rarely keep clean sheets, even though they are winning games with like 3-1, 4-1, 5-1. Seen a lot of those results. And playing against Bournemouth, they are in form as well, so they could probably do something against Newcastle. But I wouldn't necessarily want to bring in attacking assets from Bournemouth for their next 3 game weeks. As mentioned, if you have the funds, I would probably take a look at Morgan Gibbs White from Nottingham Forest. We know that he is not on penalties as he has been for Nottingham Forest earlier. Chris Wood, he is their penalty taker. We've seen this a couple of times this season, so that kind of dents Morgan Gibbs White's appeal, of course, but he's still on free kicks, still on corners, still playing in an advanced position. So Morgan Gibbs White is a decent option at the moment. Yeah, that's a good take. Yeah, I'm not really sure that Bournemouth attackers. That's my point. I feel that I talked a lot and I didn't really pay attention to when your last comment came in because I was like checking ownership and stuff like that. So hopefully, hopefully you get this right, and hopefully Utara is not scoring a brace against Newcastle and Lewis Hall, my defender, in game week 22. It's like they're, when it comes to Bournemouth at the moment, I think that they have potential to do really, really well. We saw this in the second half against Chelsea as well. So Bournemouth are a really good team, but I would not necessarily bring in any of their assets at the moment. Yeah, that was very helpful. Thanks. When it comes to Bournemouth, I'm actually considering selling Kirkis next week because of those fixtures. They have good fixtures again from game week 26. I think they have Southampton in game week 26 away against Southampton. I just checked this earlier today. Let's have a quick look. So as mentioned, Bournemouth, they play Newcastle, then Nottingham Forest, and in game week 24 they have Liverpool. But after the Liverpool game in game week 24, they have Southampton in game week 25 and then Wolves at home in game week 26. So keep Utara on your watch list and consider bringing him in for game week 25. I think that Evan Nilsson is probably out for long. We'll probably miss several game weeks going forward. Of course, pay attention to this as well. If Evan Nilsson is back, then Utara's minutes are slightly at risk. So, yeah, I would pay attention to the injury situation at Bournemouth as well. The thing is, when it comes to Bournemouth, I think that Unal, he would probably start ahead of Utara. So he's like third choice as their number 9. So even though, as you mentioned, his stats are good and he passes the eye tests, he is still probably on borrowed time. So transfer waiting to happen, but of course there could be good points to get. Cheap with good aerial shot, yeah. What do you think of Chalobah as an option now going back to Chelsea? I will wait a bit to see how he settles in. I know that he has been there before, of course, but I think that he is actually a decent FPL options. He has some threat as well. So I just read your comments in in the wrong order. I read your last comment and thought at first that it was about Utara, but of course, as I was just saying, that Chalobah, he has good aerial threat, and I'm definitely agree. Decent FPL option if he looks like a nailed on starter for Chelsea. I think that what Colville actually is missing. So Colville, he has been like a solid, steady, decent option from game week 1 until now, but the thing is that he's missing that attacking threat at set pieces, and I think that Chalobah probably can offer that if he nails down a starting spot. But as mentioned, I think it's too early to tell. He just got back from his loan, so we'll probably wait a couple more game weeks. It's not like Chelsea are doing really well defensively these days, so I think that he's definitely one to monitor, but it's a wait and see for me. At the moment, we have really good other defensive options. I like Munoz at Crystal Palace and Lewis Hall, even though he's not a differential anymore. I think that Lewis Hall looks really, really good. He's so attacking, and Newcastle, they have been really good defensively and really good in general. So I think that Lewis Hall is a good option, and I would actually start considering Liverpool assets for their double game week 24 and also their fixture in game week 23. So I just said, I'm not sure if you had joined in, Jimbo, but I just ranked the Liverpool defenders, and for me at the moment, Trent, because of his attacking threat, he is probably the best Liverpool defensive option, and second on my list would be Konate due to his value, only priced at 5.1, and Van Dijk at 6.4. I think that's maybe a bit expensive for Van Dijk 6.4, but he has of course some attacking threat as well, and he is definitely nailed on. Do you think it's too risky to have two attackers that aren't nailed on? It kind of depends on the assets, because when it comes to having risky assets, it's kind of, when it comes to risky assets, most of the time those risky assets are enablers, or they are pretty cheap. So the only risky asset that's not really nailed on is probably Foden. But when it comes to those other expensive assets, they are pretty nailed on to start. But Man City options, Phil Foden, Kevin De Bruyne, they are probably the exceptions. But it depends on what you get in on the other end. So if you like have a player like Ahmad, who's of course at the moment he's nailed on, but at the start of the season it was like not that easy to see that Ahmad would be nailed on for Man United. We had like Garnacho really close to him, I think, at the start of the season when it comes to getting starts. When it comes to those players that are not definitely nailed, I think that what it gives you to in funds to upgrade in other areas, I think it's probably worth to have one or two of those players, but definitely not more. What you really want from your FPL assets is high expected minutes and them to be nailed on, and you want them to be on set pieces and of course penalties. If they play for an attacking team and if their price is low, that's of course a plus, and Mbumo, he ticks all those boxes. Let's see. I have very good other bench options like Trent, Hall, Munoz, Milenkovic, and Kirkis for bench cover. That's a really, really decent defense. As mentioned, Kirkis, he has been really good. Was it game week 20? Was that when he got 12 points? I started him for that game week. It was really, really satisfying, but considering Bournemouth fixtures, I might actually sell him in game week 23 to bring in Trent, but a really good defense there, Jimbo. I have Salah, Palmer, Bruno, Sar, Enzo, Isaac Jackson, Wissa. Yeah. All solid FPL picks. Will probably have some benching headaches. I think that in game week 22 will be a bit easier for you to, it will be between Ismail Assar and Enzo. I would definitely keep Jackson. I just talked about this earlier in this stream. I watched the Chelsea game. in game week 21, and Jackson, he was really, really unfortunate not to get any more attacking returns. Of course, the assist was really good to Cole Palmer's first goal, but he had some chances himself, so probably he should have scored a couple of goals and got more points in game week 21. So bench Sar or Enzo, in my opinion. Maybe one of them will not even play, but considering your defense, you look set to save a transfer in game week 22. I think it's probably really valuable to save transfers, especially if you only have 1 or 2 free transfers at the moment. It's probably a good idea to save and to bring in Liverpool players for double game week 24. I was considering doing Sar to Felix and Enzo to Otara. Yeah, I definitely see the temptation to do those moves. Sar, he got an assist in game week 21, but he's yellow flagged. Hasn't really done much recently, but he's cheap enough to keep on the bench and monitor until we have more information ahead of game week 23. I think that especially when we consider that they have a double game week, I think that a lot can happen in game week 22. There might be an injury to Luis Diaz, might be an injury to Gakpo. We might see Darwin or Jota get an injury. So if this happens, it will really be helpful for the ones with free transfers available and a Liverpool spot. So my hope, I'm not really hoping that they will get injured, but when it comes to FPL, it will make it a lot easier to decide on that third Liverpool spot. So I think that you're probably selling 2 okay FPL assets in Sar and Enzo to bring in 2 okay FPL assets as well. Bruno could be an easy route to anyone for a Liverpool attacker with 1 transfer. Yeah, of course, if you have Bruno Fernandes, he could easily become any Liverpool midfielder, of course, apart from Mo Salah. Charlie, hello mates. Thanks for joining in, Charlie. Go and vote in the captain poll. Mo Salah, he is leading. Like, I had these captain polls every game week, and I'm not sure how many game weeks I actually have captain Mo Salah myself. Must be like 2 times I given Salah the armband in the last 10 game weeks, something like that. But Mo Salah, he always is on top on the captain polls in those streams, and of course he's always the most owned players when it comes to effective ownership as well. So it kind of makes sense. But I feel that the people in the chat, they are talking about Palmer captaincy, Isak captaincy, but Mo Salah, he always wins the poll. Jimbo, but then I also want Mbumo soon after, so we need to find money there too. So I would probably just hold the transfers, Jimbo, to be honest. I'm not really convinced of Joao Felix and Utara. They are decent punts short term, but I would probably just hold my transfers. Maybe you can even, with your team, seeing your defensive cover as well. If you really want Mbumo, I can get that. He has really good fixtures coming up. So a quick look at Mbumo's fixtures as well. Brentford, they are playing Liverpool in game week 22. They have Crystal Palace away, and then Spurs at home, and then they have some green fixtures coming up: West Ham, Leicester, and Everton. I think that that fixture in game week 24 for Brentford probably is a decent fixture, especially for their attacking assets. So if you have the possibility to wait until game week 24 with Mbumo, that's probably my advice. Jota has a knock, whatever that means. Yeah, I just read that he was a slight risk ahead of game week 22. My hope was that one of their attackers would be injured for a couple of game weeks and be back for game week 26, 27, something like that, so I can make a decision on my third Liverpool spot. But yeah, Charlie, Brentford have 5 fit defenders. One has never started in the league before, and the other one is a winger. I'm very tempted to either bench or sell Bruno Fernandes this week. He really looked uninvolved versus Southampton. I have Jacob Murphy on the bench, who I can start. What would you do? So if I had Bruno Fernandes, I if I had Bruno Fernandes, I would probably just start him. To be honest, I know that there are a lot of frustrated Bruno Fernandes owners that really hope that he could deliver at home against Southampton, of course, but it's not like Man United have a really bad fixture in game week 22, playing at home against Brighton. So I think that there is a risk that you'll regret the decision of benching Bruno Fernandes, considering his price as well. I think that it's probably a good idea to just start Bruno Fernandes at home against Brighton. Not hating the idea of playing Jacob Murphy as well. We know that he is nailed on to start from Newcastle at the moment. Barnes, he is injured, so decent fixture, of course, for Jacob Murphy as well, playing at home against Bournemouth. As mentioned, Barnes is out, so they will probably line up as they did in game week 21. So they will have Gordon on the left, Isaac, of course, playing as the number 9, and Murphy will be on that right wing. But if I were to pick between Jacob Murphy and Bruno Fernandes, even though I know that you're tempted to play Murphy, I would probably advise you to play Bruno Fernandes. I'm sorry. Yeah, good point. Almiron just left Newcastle as well, so only Willock or so. Yeah, I'm not really concerned about Jacob Murphy's minutes at the moment, but it's just that I would be more concerned about Bruno Fernandes, to be honest, if it was a 50-50 decisions between the two of them. Nottingham Forest, first time this season, so every game week I make this top 5 with clean sheets. I go to the bookies and check the most probable clean sheets, and I also do this for anytime goal scorer. And it's the first time this season that Nottingham Forest are the bookies' favorites to keep a clean sheet? Usually it's Arsenal, Liverpool, always high, of course, Man City, Man United, teams like this. But for game week 22, Nottingham Forest, they actually are the bookies' favorites for clean sheets. So I'm kind of worried about not owning a Nottingham Forest defender. They are so well owned. It's not like one of them are really standing out. I know that Aina is the most selected player, but it's not like he is their only defensive asset. So there are a lot of managers with Murillo. There are a lot of managers with Milenkovic as well. So altogether, Nottingham Forest's defenders are really well owned, and I haven't really even mentioned Cells. So a clean sheet for Nottingham Forest would really hurt the rank for non-owners. So hopefully Southampton can do as they did against Man United, of course, because I own Masraoui, so hopefully Southampton can score again in game week 22. Already know how it ends, either both of them blank or one gets a crazy haul and the other doesn't. Can you bring up the captain decision graphics that you normally make if you have them, please? Yeah, sure, I'll... give me a minute, I can just upload them real quick. Let's see. I made one for Salah, one for Palmer, and Alexander Isak. Yeah. This one is for Mo Salah playing against Brentford, and I think that, as I said in my game week 22 team selection video, I think that those stats are a bit skewed because, of course, those stats are actually decent when we consider their defensive stats. 2 clean sheets, they have only conceded 4 goals, 8 big chances, and 16 shots on target. But they actually have done a bit better at home. So these are like the stats from, I think it's 2 home games and 2 away games altogether. It's just the last 4 game weeks. So I probably should have made one for the last 4 home games, and if I did those, that would probably be a bit better. I think that they maybe have kept 3 clean sheets, only conceded a couple of goals. So Brentford at home is a really good team, but of course in game week 22 they are playing against Liverpool, really strong side. So we know that Liverpool, they can beat anyone really. So about time Milenkovic scored a header. Yeah, really good option, Milenkovic. I remember watching Nottingham Forest play against Man City. This was before Christmas. I was watching that game with a friend of mine, and no real reason to know who Milenkovic is. He played in Italy, so not really watching that much of Italian football, but I just checked the FPL stats and his expected goal, and I said, Milenkovic, he will probably score, and he actually did against Man City in that game, so that was quite funny. A really good option. Who would you replace Sar or Enzo with? It kind of depends how much money you have in the bank, to be honest. It's the same price point. Is it just one transfer? I'm not really sure that there is really easy to replace one of them at the same price point. So this price point as well is easily benched because it's only Was it a 5 point? Can't really remember. And so surprise 5.2, 5.5, around 5.5 maybe. Star. There, there aren't really good options around that price point. So if I were to make transfers this game week, especially if I only have one or two Liverpool players, I would use my next transfers to try to triple up on Liverpool and take advantage of the double game week. So for me, if I had one of them, I would probably sell Kai Havertz and Sars to bring in probably Luis Diaz and Gakpo. I thought Brentford were going to be much worse. Jesus, they're pretty. Yeah, and as mentioned, I got a bit surprised as well, Charlie, because these stats are actually from 2 home games and 2 away games, and recently, all season really, they have been much better at home than away. So I don't necessarily see the Brentford fixture as a really good game for Liverpool. Not as tough as Nottingham Forest away, but kind of similar in terms of stats. Give a minute and I will bring up for Palmer and Isaac as well. So this is for Cole Palmer. There's like every time I bring in a new graphic, I always forget to put my camera back on. But Cole Palmer playing as Wolves, probably the best fixture. Wolves actually they have kept 2 clean sheets. This is from game week 17 to game week 20. So game week 21 is not included, unfortunately, in this graphic. It was because I made it before Wolves fixture against Newcastle, so it would have been a bit worse actually. They conceded 3 goals against Newcastle, so yeah. To summarize, Wolves, they are really mid-table when it comes to their defensive stats. When it comes to Isak, Newcastle, they they are up against Bournemouth. Same goes for Bournemouth as with Wolves. Usually I do those graphics every week, and usually I do them with the freshest and newest updates on the stats. But this week it was a quick turnaround between the game weeks, so I had to make those graphics for my team selection video, and I had to make the graphics on Tuesday. So the games for Wolves and Bournemouth, they haven't actually played yet this game week, so I just had to make them for game week 17 to game week 20. So sorry about that. The last fixture is not included this week, but yeah, it gives us an idea of their recent defensive form, and Bournemouth actually have done pretty well, as you can see on the screen. From game week 17 to game week 20, they have kept 3 clean sheets and only conceded 2 goals, and that's pretty solid for a team like Bournemouth. Of course, they conceded 2 goals against Chelsea, so if I were to make those stats and update them, it would be 2 clean sheets, 4 goals conceded, which probably would put them 7th or 8th for goals conceded. Big chances, probably probably actually around the same numbers as Wolves. So Bournemouth Wolves probably pretty close when it comes to their defensive stats. They have played pretty bad teams in game week 17 to game week 20, so the stats could be a bit off. Yeah, that's the thing when it comes to considering the last 4 game weeks. It is a good idea to sometimes check who they have played against. Of course, that's a good point. They did well at home to Forest, but still conceded 3. Yeah. Good point, Wolves with their new manager. I'm not really convinced that Wolves have been that much better, but I think that when it comes to Nottingham Forest and playing against them, it has to be really, really frustrating, especially if Chris Wood gets his one chance and if he gets it early and scores as he always does recently. So this with Liverpool as well. So that's just to summarize the stats. It's kind of mixed. None of the teams are really standing out as being really, really bad. So I think that the captaincy is pretty close this game week, to be honest. But I think that probably Cole Palmer and Chelsea have the best fixture. But as you mentioned, they were maybe a bit unlucky to concede 3 goals against Forest. But I still think that Chelsea have the better fixture in game week 22, and Cole Palmer is my current captain for the next game week. Michael, thanks for joining in. Bye, enough this week. Of course, I talked a lot about the Nottingham Forest defense actually on this stream. Really, really good defense. Still maybe a bit underrated. Maybe not for the engaged FPL managers. So Nottingham Forest, they have 3 players in the top 6. Really good defense. I think that Aina is a really, really good option. I would probably go for one of the lesser owned defenders, especially if you want more of a differential. So I think that Milenkovic is a really good option as well. Aina, if you want to play it safe, but I would go for Milenkovic if you want to take more of a punt. Big attacking threat as well. I actually think that Milenkovic has more attacking threat. I can't really see Aina scoring those shots from outside of the box that often. So my advice would be to go Milenkovic for my Nottingham Forest defender. Jackson to Gakpo next week. Yes, I would do that. I'm considering Havertz to Gakpo next week. So if Gakpo does well in game week 22, I will definitely consider bringing in Gakpo for next game week. I appreciate the help this week. Good luck. I will join next week for the Q&A. It always helpful. Thanks for saying that, Charlie. Really, really helpful for me. Thanks for joining in. Thanks for all the questions and the interaction. Really, really appreciate it. And best of luck for game week 22. Hopefully you'll get a green arrow and see you next time. Make sure to join in, and there's a link in the description for my new classic mini league. So if you find the time and if you're interested, go join that one as well. So thanks for joining in, everyone. Is Trent to keep? Yes, he is. I am actually considering buying Trent next week. My moves next week will probably be to sell Kai Havertz and Kirkis to bring in Gakpo and Trent. So if you already have Trent in your team, I think that he is definitely a keep, especially if there are no truth in those rumors about Trent joining Real Madrid. I can't really see it happening in January, maybe in the summer, but if we get no concrete news about Trent leaving Liverpool, then he is definitely a keep for me. Best defender when it comes to expected goal involvement, and Liverpool, they have a double game week in game week 24. So my aim is to have 3 Liverpool players going into game week 24. So if I had Trent in, I would definitely keep him. Thanks for joining in. Best of luck to all of you guys for the next game week 22. If you're interested, go and join the Classic Mini League. It will run from this game week 22, until game week 28. So there will be bragging rights on those streams. I usually do a Q&A before every game week on Friday night. I also try to do a deadline stream on Saturdays. I usually make it, but I don't always find the time, so there will be game weeks where I miss out on the deadline stream, unfortunately, but I always do a Q&A, and I always post a game week team selection video ahead of every game week as well. I have a video about the upcoming blanks and doubles all the way until the end of the season, so go check that one out as well. That will be really, really helpful for my channel to get the watch time hours up a bit. But thanks for joining in on this stream, and hopefully I'll see you next time. Have a nice weekend and a good game week.